The Tory Lanez trial involving Megan Thee Stallion is not looking great for the prosecution side of things. The eyewitness testimony today conflicts what Megan Thee Stallion said on the stand. We have to unpack everything that this eyewitness said, the missing bodyguard, the missing driver, and who exactly is going to win at the end of this case. Welcome back to the Kempire Daily YouTube channel, your #1 source for pop culture news and music, entertainment, reality TV, and so much more. As always, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on breaking news when we go live or when we upload. So it's been a few days since we talked about the Megan Thee Stallion trial, and I told you, I'm not going to cover every single detail, every single witness. I would just summarize some of the most pertinent details that come out. And at this point, I didn't even expect to talk about today's testimony because I was like, you know what? There's only a couple of more days of testimony and then the jury will deliberate and there will be a finalization. And I still feel, based on how everything has been playing out in court these last couple of days, these last week or two, is that it doesn't look good for the prosecution. And I'm not going to even say it doesn't look good for Megan Thee Stallion because Megan Thee Stallion is not the one, first of all, on trial, and she's not the one that brought these charges. The prosecution brought these charges. And it doesn't look good based off of, and I'm not going to even blame the prosecution because I just feel like they felt like they had a solid case. They opened this case by saying it's pretty much open and shut. This is what happened. Tory Lanez is the gunman. But you have to prove it. You have to make the jury believe, not me trying to pretend like I'm an attorney, but look, I watch enough Law and Order, look. But you have to make the jury believe, and based on what they have in front of them and based on the guidelines, is there enough information here that this happened and that Tory is to blame? There's a lot of conflicting stories and then not enough witnesses there to testify. Let's talk about that. Megan Thee Stallion's former bodyguard, fine bodyguard, okay, all right, I'll focus, is missing. There's no official missing police report. The last that we have of this bodyguard was what he posted on his social media earlier this month. He was in Qatar for the World Cup. Congratulations to Argentina. And he was supposed to testify on Friday and didn't show up. Didn't show up. And then the last we heard before that, the driver was missing. There have been all kinds of accusations. Even at one point in court this past week, the prosecution asked the judge to bring charges against Tory, additional charges. I believe the charges were, one of them was intimidation of a witness.
Here's your Monday update. Prosecutors just tried to charge Tory with 2 new felony counts of intimidating a witness. 1 for intimidating Meg, 2 for intimidating Kelsey. They want these charges added to the criminal complaint and they want these charges to go to the jury at this trial. The judge said, what? Hold up now. We just finished pretty much all the testimony. By the way, there's about 1 day of testimony left, maybe 2. And you guys want to add 2 new counts for what? Based on what? How long have you had this information? They said, well, we know that he's been threatening to pay them $1 million and we had that information a while ago, but we didn't know how they were going to testify. The judge said, no, that's not how this works. You cannot add these charges to this trial right now. It would be so unfair to the jury to hear, to the defendant to hear that this is what you're trying to do. So the judge denied it. If they want to charge him with intimidating a witness, they can do that with a separate case. It's not going to happen on this case. As to the rest of the trial, testimony will conclude probably tomorrow, maybe the day after. Closing statements coming on Wednesday or Thursday. We should get a verdict. I don't know how long it's going to take the jury, but this is going to be given to the jury by Thursday or Friday.
The judge said no. They said, if you want to bring these sorts of charges, how long have you known about this? If you want to bring these types of charges, you're going to have to do a whole separate trial. If you've known this long about these accusations that he may have been intimidating witnesses and you didn't bring this up originally, no, we're not going to do that now at this point. Now we hear that the former bodyguard is missing. Just yesterday, the stylist was on the stand testifying. And look, they're trying to discredit Megan. And I know a lot of you are like, why are they discrediting her? She's the victim. Well, she also testified, so they're trying to discredit her testimony. They're trying to say that she's not a reliable reporter. I get what you're saying. I'm more concerned about the people like 50 Cent and Joe Budden chiming in their attack of black women consistently. But anyway, so this is what TMZ is reporting in regards to the missing bodyguard. Have they found him yet? Because at this point, guys, I have not seen an update that he's been found, but there's also no official missing persons report. So TMZ reports this. They said that the bodyguard remains off the grid after skipping his scheduled testimony, but the LA County DA's office now has cops on the hunt for him. They said, as TMZ reported, Justin Edison was supposed to testify Friday in the Tory Lanez trial for the alleged shooting of Megan Thee Stallion, but he never showed up. His disappearance raised a lot of eyebrows, and law enforcement sources tell TMZ investigators paid a visit to his LA home Monday morning, hoping to find Justin. They said, we're told the investigators' goal was to find out what Justin's availability would be for testifying, as he was supposed to last week. Unfortunately, they did not locate him and still have no clue on his whereabouts. As I said to you before, on his Instagram, he was working in Qatar, but the World Cup is over. Did he ever come back? But he was scheduled to testify on Friday. So according to TMZ sources, they say that Justin still is not considered a missing person, nor has anyone even reported him as missing. Except us. We're looking for him. Megan's attorney, Alex Spiro, told TMZ Live Meg's team was last in touch with Justin on Thursday night, when they fully expected he would be in court Friday for testimony that they felt would be devastating to Tory's case. Spiro believes there's witness intimidation going on in Tory's trial, and he claims prosecutors have launched an investigation into that. TMZ has reached out to the DA's office and they have no comment at this time. Of course they don't. They're focused on their case that looks like they're losing. Well, you also may recall the defense said that they had a witness. So all this played out in a neighborhood in California. It is all played out in this neighborhood. So there was a neighbor that heard this and witnessed what went down. So according to our friends over at Lawyers for Workers, they've been covering this trial. They've been in there watching it. I know some of you don't like his opinion, but we like to listen to everyone's opinion. He has his thoughts on the prosecution and how they're handling this and how the defense is handling this. And I think he's leaning more towards on how the defense is handling this case. And every lawyer is going to have a difference of opinion. Well, he says in the testimony from this eyewitness, this person that's not connected to any of these individuals, this eyewitness, although a little inconsistent in regards to who was shooting and what was going on, one of the shocking claims in this person's testimony, he says when everything was going down, 3 people were beating on this woman. He doesn't know who this woman is. I'm assuming, and I think we're all to assume, because she is the victim in the situation, that these 3 individuals, after the gunshots and everything was happening, that these 3 individuals, including Kelsey allegedly, Tory, he said a little man. Damn, is he that small? But he said 3 individuals. So was the driver also beating on Megan?
Hollywood writers can't make this stuff up. Wait until you hear what the eyewitness testimony was this morning at the Tory Lanez. They asked Mr. Kelly, do you know why you're here? He said, absolutely. The defense attorney put up a picture of the back of his home. You could see a driveway. They had him draw a square where the SUV was parked. It was right on the curb of the back of his house, 10, 15 feet. His window is overlooking it. He stepped out onto his Juliet balcony and he watched for several minutes as Meg Thee Stallion and Kelsey, the 2 females, he didn't identify them by name, got out of the car and they were engaged in a fight. It was violent. It was quite aggressive. It started with arguing that woke him up in the middle of the night. Where his house is, often him and his son are woken up in the middle of the night by people who stop in and around the back of his home. This was another night, arguing, escalation, 2 women fighting. He watched the whole thing while standing on his balcony. Oh my God, it gets crazier. As he looked down on a fight that he described as quite violent, he then saw the larger gentleman, this is presumably the security guard Quan, come and violently try to separate them. Eventually, all four were involved in what he called an aggressive, everyone fighting, essentially just a melee, a free-for-all between four people in the middle of the night, right outside of his back window. He said at one point he saw one woman go back towards into the car. At that point, he saw a muzzle flash. Then he said there was a man, and after the first few shots from the woman came off, he saw the man getting involved with the woman, and more shots went off. On cross-examination, the prosecutor asked him, "Did you see the man shoot?" He said, "Yes, I saw the shorter man with a gun shooting violently in the air at least 5 times. Okay, wait, what? That's not what you just testified. Then the defense attorney went back and asked him, "I thought you said you saw the woman and then you saw the man shoot." And he's like, "Yeah, you have to understand, it was just a crazy free-for-all and it all happened very quickly." And then he said the most shocking thing that has come out in this case, which is that after the shots went off, one woman crawled further away, that the 3 people then went over there and beat her violently while she was on the ground. They picked her up. They looked like they were going to drag her and throw her into the river. Instead, they dragged her across the street, put her in the car, and drove off. The prosecution, we're on lunch. The prosecution is going to come back, and basically they're trying to build the case that this witness is lying because he's intimidated by the defense, that he never said anything about the muzzle flash going off near Kelsey, and now he's saying all this because he's scared of telling the truth. We'll see how that comes out on direct. Here's a fact, though. He has been consistent about a couple things. One, the 2 women were outside that car fighting for several minutes, escalated, started with an argument, then it got quite violent, and the security guard came out to try to separate them. The idea that the jury would credit Meg's testimony, which is just completely contradicted by this eyewitness, is highly unlikely. The prosecution has major work to do to save their case, which is absolutely on life support right now.
This story continues to get weirder, stranger. I wouldn't be shocked if this ended in a mistrial, but I also wouldn't be shocked if this ended in a innocent for Tory, just because I don't know if they've done what they need to do to prove that he was the sole gunman in this situation. But I'm no attorney. A lot of you are, and you have your opinions and thoughts on this case as well. I'm hoping my next report on this situation will be the final verdict. But the testimony that we've been hearing, Megan Thee Stallion's former stylist, and what they had to say yesterday, a lot of this is just like, damn, this is not looking good for the prosecution. It just isn't. But you just never know. You never know what the jury is hearing and their perception of what is being said. Guys, I'm sure you've been following this story and you have thoughts as well. Let's share those thoughts in the comment section. And as always, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on breaking news when we go live or when we upload. It's about to be Christmas, so happy holidays. And of course, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, all that good stuff. Thanks for watching.